Okay, seeing that the hour is 7 o'clock and we have a quorum, I will call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Note that we have regrets from Deputy Warden Mumberket, but she has sent copious notes about her thoughts on each of the topics that we have on our agenda this evening. So welcome to everyone to tonight's meeting. A reminder that we are being recorded. We have folks watching via live stream, and it can also be viewed on our website or our YouTube channel at folks' convenience. It's also aired on Tell-Il for the next 7 days. I'll begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today in Unama'ki, the land of the fog, a part of Mi'kma'ki, the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people since time immemorial. We honor and thank the Mi'kmaq for sharing their land and home with us. You have an agenda in front of you that was circulated last week. Are there any errors or additions to the minutes as circulated? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Councillor Brian Marchand. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Brent Sampson seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. So we have a, did we do that? What did I just do there? Do the minutes? No.
You gotta do the minutes.
We're doing minutes now. Yeah, there you go. I'm on a roll. Review of the minutes are on pages 4 to 8 of your online package, if you are following along. So the meeting was held on May 12th. So if there are any errors or omissions to those, happy to entertain. Hearing none, would love a motion to approve the minutes as circulated. Moved by Councillor Sean Sampson, seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we now move to presentations to Council. We just have one this evening. Are you... Okay, so we just have one. So welcome to Tom Kozlowski. Did I pronounce that right? Great. Coastal engineer with CBCL. And he is going to speak to us to our extreme storm event flood hazard mapping for Point Tupper. So for folks who are following along or like to have written stuff to review during or after this presentation, you can find the slides on pages 8 to 56 of the online package, but there is actually a lengthy report that is so lengthy that it's actually its own PDF under the Committee of the Whole packages for this evening. So I'm going to welcome you to Richmond County's Council Chambers and throw it over to you for this evening's presentation.
Thank you very much. Do I turn this microphone on, or is everything okay?
It's on, and once we get to questions, you can press the button when you're ready to answer. You don't have to turn it off, and just a note that the cameras need a minute to turn to you, so don't be surprised if it, so you can press the button now, and we have somebody who's better than this at us in the room back there. Clayton is like awesome, so
all
if your light's on, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, Council. My name is Tom Kozlowski. I'm a coastal engineer with CBCL Limited. We were engaged by the Municipality of the County of Richmond under the Federal Flood Hazard Identification and Mapping Program to investigate coastal flooding at Point Tupper. So the objective of our project is to provide MOCR with extreme storm event flood hazard maps based on numerical modeling results for the Point Tupper area. That's the type of floodline mapping that's foundational to decision-making for land use planning, asset management, public works decisions, emergency management, and other types of future-focused decision-making. So this slide shows the study area. So this is Point Tupper, and the green line on this map is the extent of our study area. Starts at Paint Street and Industrial Park Road in the north, goes around the coast of Point Tupper, and ends at Caribou Head in the east. So some more specific project objectives. we were to use numerical models to map where coastal flooding could occur at Point Tupper and understand the difference between storm events and project into the future. And we also aimed to complement rather than replace other regional flood mapping coming through the FIMP program. And as such, there was a focus on specific events for this project, whereas the other flood mapping program is more focused on synthetic events or a statistical event. So we were primarily concerned with Hurricane Fiona. So we modeled the hurricane in present conditions, projected into the future, and we looked at an enhanced scenario that represents a plausible but very extreme case. Additionally, we looked at the compounding of coastal flooding and rainfall flooding happening at the same time, what sea level rise might look like in the future, and we modeled extreme waves around the Point Tupper coast, and using a separate set of models simulated how far waves would uprush onto the shore of Point Tupper. And using all of these different models, we were able to put together a set of flood hazard maps, which are included in the PDF package. So we chose 25 scenarios in order to answer the following questions for MOCR, which is, where is coastal flooding likely? What if Fiona hits again? What if it's worse? Do coastal and rainfall flooding interact with each other? And what about with projected sea level rise of 26 centimeters by 2050 or 88 centimeters by 2100? So this is Point Tupper. This is some of the data that we had to work with. So on the left, you see the bathymetry, or the elevation of the seabed around the Point Tupper Peninsula. And on the right is land elevations. One thing you'll notice is that the channel and port are very deep. Immediately to the north of these maps is the Canso Causeway, which keeps the Strait of Canso ice-free in the winter. Both of those facts help keep Point Tupper with the title of the deepest ice-free port on the east coast of North America. You'll also notice on the topography, which is the figure on the right, that the site is generally speaking quite steep and quite high. All of the yellow on this map is above 25 meters, CGV 2013, sort of above sea level, and at no risk whatsoever of coastal flooding. So the vast majority is outside of that sort of flood risk possibility zone. And so our study is concerned with the areas marked in different shades of green and just determining the coastal risk in that zone. In terms of natural protection from flooding, the Point Tupper site was chosen quite wisely as a major industrial center. So also fortunately for Point Tupper, there is a long-term tide gauge run by the Canadian Hydrographic Service. It has been at Point Tupper and at Port Hawkesbury over the years. It's currently at Port Hawkesbury, but it was at Point Tupper for a long time. And so there is a large amount of data available for us to look historically and see what types of water levels are likely to happen at Point Tupper. There's about 25 years of data for us to analyze. So we used that 25 years of data, and we did a statistical fit to establish the likelihood of extreme water levels. And for example, the analysis tells us that a water level of 2.81 meters above chart datum has a 1% chance of occurring in a given year, or a 1 in 100 year return period of happening. So we were able to, with that statistical fit, get a likelihood of different water levels happening. And we also have predicted tides from the Canadian Hydrographic Service. We will get back to this in a second, But first, let's look at sea level rise and water level measurements during Fiona. So this plot shows projections of sea level rise under various scenarios for the Point Upper area. And there is a question of how severe a scenario to choose when projecting sea level rise to be conservative but reasonable. And so we've selected a conservative scenario called SSP 5 8.5 median, which is not a completely catastrophic future projection, but it is conservative. And that projects 26 centimeters of sea level rise by year 2050 and 88 centimeters of sea level rise by year 2100 above the 2020 sea levels. What this means is that as sea levels go up, the natural protection from flooding that the site has, that the elevation provides, shrinks a little bit each year. So there is a little bit less protection from flooding each year as sea levels go up. This is Hurricane Fiona. Can I play this? Oh, maybe I can't. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I wonder if my other videos play. We'll see. Okay, so this is Hurricane Fiona. The storm started in the Caribbean, and the eye of the storm passed very close to Point Tupper. The eye of the storm passed essentially halfway between Ayrshad and Point Tupper, and this storm was actually responsible for the lowest pressure ever recorded in Canadian history. It was categorized as extratropical when it made landfall, but it still had Category 2 strength. And the storm, of course, after passing through this part of the world, went on to devastate the north shore of Nova Scotia, as well as Prince Edward Island, Magdalen Islands, and western Newfoundland. And so at the tide gauge, so like I said, Point Tupper is lucky to have a tide gauge right here. This is the plot of the water levels during Fiona. So the orange line represents the actual measured water level. So the tide gauge measures this orange line, and that's essentially the elevation of the water. And the blue line is the tidal prediction. So the blue line is where the tide is during the measurement. And you'll notice that the observed orange line is generally following the blue line, and not exactly. So the difference between the blue line and the orange line is called the residual, and that's that black line, and it's also a measure of storm surge. So in the early morning of September 24th, 2022, there's a large spike in the black line, in the residual, and that is the storm surge caused by Hurricane Fiona as it passed by Point Tupper. So that, I'm not sure if you can read it, but that is 2 meters of storm surge coming in during that hurricane. The timing of that storm surge was very fortuitous for Point Tupper because it happened at low tide. So you'll notice that blue line is at a very low point. So when the storm was passing, the water was already quite low. So adding a large storm surge on top of low tide didn't make a particularly high tide or high water level. So let's return to this slide. And so from this analysis that we did of the tide gauge and the measurement of Fiona itself, we can determine that the water level that was measured during Hurricane Fiona was about 2.53 meters, and it puts the storm surge or the extreme water level of Hurricane Fiona at about a 2-year return period event, which is notable but not a very extreme event because it happened to happen at low tide. So had it not hit at low tide, but if it had hit at the next high tide 6 hours later, the water would have been 1.3 meters higher, which would have been more than a meter higher than the highest ever recorded value at the Point Tupper tide gauge. And if it had hit at an extra high tide, it would have been another 40 centimeters higher, which is what...
When you say extra high tide, do you mean like related to full moon, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so there's a 19-year tide cycle, and this thing called highest astronomical tide is when the moon and the sun and all of the things are aligned to make the highest possible tide. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, so because the storm hit during a low tide, the decision was made to investigate what we called an enhanced scenario, where the storm would hit at a very high tide, and the storm track was chosen for extreme storm surge at Point Tupper. And so it is an extremely unlikely but still plausible event, and that's the blue line. Okay, so in the plot here, the orange line is the same measurement of Fiona that happened from the tide gauge, and the blue line is our model results with our enhanced scenario, and the water level is just quite a bit higher. Okay, so this was a video. Let's see if it will play or if it is just a black box. Okay, I think this is just a black box, and well, this animation does not show propagation of storm surge, but we made a model. It's very pretty. And then this one probably also does not work. Okay, cool. All right, so these are figure results of the modeling that we did. So this is modeled storm surge and modeled waves at Point Tupper during Hurricane Fiona. And on the left is the storm surge generated during the hurricane, and on the right are the waves generated from that same hurricane. And in the little inset maps, you can see the hurricane shape, kind of, what do you call that thing? Dartboard type shape of the hurricane. Two things we can conclude is that the modeled storm surge doesn't vary much across the site. There's about a 10 centimeter difference in storm surge from one end of Point Tupper to the other, but the modeled waves are pretty different from the north side to the south side. There's about 1.5 meters difference in wave heights. There is more direct exposure of the southern end of Point Tupper to the open ocean, whereas the more northern half of Point Tupper is much more protected from ocean waves. So the consequence for this, for the storm surge mapping, is that the values computed with high certainty at the CHS tide gauge with very good data were applied to the site, which lowers our probability of error, or our there are fewer assumptions involved in applying those values.
Can we just,
yeah.
It's up to you, but our clerk can actually play the videos
Oh.
and project it up onto the screen. Would you like us to?
I think it's okay. We can get through the presentation, and then they look nice.
Good. Okay.
There is a hurricane moving across the.
Why don't we show it at the end?
Sure. Yeah, if we have time at the end, we can show it. Yeah. So the consequence here is that storm surge is fairly similar across the site, and waves needed to be considered differently for different areas for wave run-up. So this is what some of the maps look like. In the GIS layers, well, with the deliverables of this project, there are full flood maps as well as GIS layers, and those maps also include the wave run-up lines, but here we have the flooding from the modeled Hurricane Fiona. So the black line, hopefully this is not too small, but the black line on this map is the high tide line, and then the blue line is what's being flooded from the specific event. So one thing you'll notice about Hurricane Fiona here is that there isn't very much more flooding from Hurricane Fiona than there would be from a particularly high tide. Note that a few of the wharves appear to be flooded, like in maps 3, 5, and 7, but those wharf structures aren't included in the provincial DEM, digital elevation model, and so they just seem to be flooded in all of the scenarios, but they're not. Okay, so that's what Hurricane Fiona looks like, similar more or less to high tide. This is what a 100-year return period storm projected out to year 2100 or 88 centimeters of sea level rise would look like. So some more flooding. So some wharf infrastructure, low-lying areas, so the wetland areas in the south of the site will be projected to have a little bit more impact from coastal flooding by 2100, and some of the wharves and wharf infrastructure. And then this one, this is the last set of maps. This is the kind of worst case Fiona map, and it shows more wharf infrastructure flooded underwater, and quite a bit more of the wetland area in the south also seeing impacts from this. Again, I need to stress that it is extremely unlikely, but plausible, and it sort of represents an upper bound of plausible coastal flooding. Yeah. So some findings from the study. I know we just spent the last few minutes talking about things that are flooding and flood vulnerability, but generally speaking, Point Tupper is well protected from coastal flooding due to two geographical factors that must have been considered when they selected this site. The topography of the site being so high and so steep, the coastline is quite steep as well, and the protection, the natural protection of the site from open ocean waves. So it's generally a good news story. As an engineer, normally we want to be negative all the time and talk about risk and bad things that are going to happen, but generally speaking, it is a good news story. Another point is that Hurricane Fiona didn't cause extensive flooding at Point Tupper because it hit at low tide. If we project that there was only bad luck instead of good luck for Point Tupper, a future Hurricane Fiona scenario could be considerably higher than what had happened in 2022. Some more key findings. We didn't have time to discuss this in this presentations, but details are in the project report. The influence of either coastal or rainfall flooding on each other is essentially negligible. high coastal water levels in the models didn't cause worse rainfall flooding, and high precipitation didn't cause worse coastal flooding. So they're essentially independent of one another. Wave exposure varies across the site. There's larger wave exposure in the south of the site compared to the north, and the models show water levels above the elevations of some of the assets, particularly with the extreme sea level rise or the more extreme cases. These are some jetties, wharves, and wharf infrastructure, as well as southern wetland areas in Ship Harbor, Bear Island Cove, and Bear Island. So the recommended next steps of what to do with this information would be to integrate the results, the flood lines, maps, and GIS into your municipal planning departments. And another step would be to identify key assets and conduct an infrastructure risk assessment on those key assets in Point Tupper to identify coastal flooding risk for each specific asset, which will help asset management type decision making. And thank you for your time.
Very helpful information. Thank you for that. Councillors have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Warden. So the topography that you're talking about, the elevation, is that more on the Richmond, Port Hawkesbury side? The lower areas are on the Guysborough, Mulgrave side? When you say north and south, are you...
If we look at the...
Because north is normally up by the causeway.
Yeah, closer toward Port Hawkesbury.
Towards Port Hawkesbury. Here, maybe it will help if we look at some of these maps.
Yeah.
You only took, yeah, on the Richmond side, okay.
Oh yeah, it's only Point Tupper itself. Mulgrave is not included.
Any other questions? Do you have another one, Councillor?
Well, are you watching the video or we're not going to watch?
Yeah.
Oh.
While Shelley sets up, I think this is positive information for us. We are, certainly trying to promote the area in terms of all that it brings people who may be interested in investing in this part of Nova Scotia. And to quote our CAO, this is a box that many companies may not have thought to tick, but it is certainly something that it can offer some reassurance to folks who may be deciding where to invest, because we certainly have very good news around what the resiliency of this area in extreme weather situations. So I think it is very much a good news story. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Here we are.
Oh,
There it goes.
yeah, I remember.
That's what the model looks like.
Okay.
One of them. There's
So
10 different models.
Is that the reenactment of Fiona? Or
Yeah, so that is the model that we built of the Gulf of St. Lawrence with the
High tide?
sorry?
Is that in high tide?
This is recreating Fiona itself, just trying to at baseline
Yeah.
get it to do real Fiona, and then using our real Fiona model, we did with high confidence did future
Yeah.
other scenarios.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But very extreme storm surge all over the place. That was a very serious storm.
Yes.
And,
It was.
yeah.
It was. I lived just over from that. And
Okay.
it was a pretty significant storm. Ironically for us, Dorian was every bit as bad because it was high tide. And so, we could watch, I just watched my bank disappear. But we recognized how lucky we were during Fiona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Go
If
ahead.
I may, Madam Chair,
Oh, right.
just wanted to thank Tom. I'm sorry I'm not in the room to see him, but it was great to work with him and his team on this project. It is much appreciated, and we do look forward to using this as people explore our park for future investment. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Deputy Warden. Or, sorry.
Yeah. No, thank you again, Tom. And I was thinking the same thing as to what you were saying, Warden, about this is great in a sense for possible future investment because it just gives them more information to know going in. But going through it as it looked to be that the report was positive in nature, I was starting to figure maybe I was reading it wrong. But I'm glad you were here to reassure us that I didn't misinterpret it anyhow. But getting back to that with Fiona, like we really saw the line, I'll tell you, like on either side. Like when I remember traveling up to Framboys the next day and stopping to see a gentleman there, and he said, "Have you been to Forshoe yet?" And I said, "No, I'm on my way." He kind of chuckled and he said, "It's different." And in that 10-15 minute drive, the destruction was far, far worse. So that was just the edge of. So we ended up being very lucky here because where it passed directly over, as much damage as there was to the east and west of us was far worse. Yeah.
I'll also mention that the deep water around Point Upper is also fortunate in that it doesn't produce as much storm surge as shallow water would. Yeah.
And I think I would be remiss if I didn't thank our I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our energy manager, who was very instrumental in liaising with you folks, and also to the province for the funding to execute this. So we're very grateful when we get opportunities to partner with the province, which is code for we don't pay, they do. So we're particularly happy when we get to see those kinds of relationships between the municipal and the provincial government, because this is certainly something that we will use in our conversations with investors, potential investors. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. All District 4. I have it here. Yeah. Okay, so folks, that takes us now to new business, and we have several items to discuss this evening. So at our meeting on May 28th, I want to say, our council meeting, because we approved the budget that night, we made an effort to try to deal with some of the backlog of grant requests that came to us. So these grant and sponsorship requests are those that came in from May 28th or a couple of days before May 28th, or maybe even May 7th, actually, because, yeah, May 7th. And so they are presented to us in the order that we receive them, and so we'll go through them and try to make some headway. So the Isle Madame Boat Club sponsorship, and I will just say that I have Councillor Mumberket's, she sent me a novella today, Deputy Warden Mumberket, so I have her comments embedded in my notes, so I'll make sure I speak on her behalf. So we have a sponsorship request from the Isle Madame Boat Club. It's for $1,000. Pages 57 to 66 outline that information, and so the Blue Nose is coming. So we typically get them every few years, but it's been a while since I can remember. And so we have $7,500 in our sponsorship fund, and we have spent $1,250 of that to date. So wondering if there is, and I will say that Amanda Mumberket's comments are supportive of $1,000. It's a big deal for Richmond County to host the Blue Nose, and I would echo those statements. So wondering if there's an appetite to make a motion to approve this request, and then we can debate within. So happy to.
Yeah, I will make that motion that we fully support the $1,000 request. Thank.
That. Seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor.
So this is going to be to host only the people on the Blue Nose, captain and the crew?
I believe it talks about... Captain and crew, but hang on.
Yeah, it just says to help fund welcome dinner, musical entertainment for the captain and the crew of the Blue Nose when they visit the Shed Harbor. August the 16th.
So this one is total amount is $350 on entertainment, $800 on food, $400 on incidentals and gifts. So they're looking at a $2,000 event. So I would say that it is likely the folks that are attending, the hosting, and the group that is arriving, so on the boat. So I think what you're saying makes sense. Any other?
On occasion we've had to erect a tent to accommodate the people attending. So I'm not 100% clear if it's open to the public or if this is just a private event separate from the, having the Blue Nose available to the public.
I think it's always been made available to the public, I think.
The ship is
Yeah.
full response. We're considering.
So it's the captain and crew and support staff for an evening of appreciation, fostering a strong bond between the boat club and the Blue Nose too. So the evening usually takes form of a get-together at the clubhouse, on the deck, hors d'oeuvres, and so on. Local entertainers participate. Crews are brought by hired vehicles. So I don't know how many people they could put there. It wouldn't be a large event at the boat club. Any other questions?
No,
Yep.
all I wanted to point out was it's not going to be many from Richmond at this event that we're putting $1,000. It's going to be the people from the boat club and the people on the ship. Not open to the public at all.
I wouldn't think it would be available to many people from the public because 7 youth. Because the boat club wouldn't host that many people, but the boat club is made up of, the Almaden Boat Club would be made up of a number of members. So you'll be talking about a large amount. I really can't imagine how you could open it up to the public given how small the facility is. So, okay, so hearing no other discussion on that. So the motion on the floor is for $1,000 for the Almaden. Councilor Burkett is not, Deputy Warden's not here, but she's supportive. Go ahead.
I'd be able to make an amendment if, and it can be supported or not, to maybe reduce that to 500 only because it's not really open to the public and so on. So we're sponsoring a private event. So if there's a seconder.
Do we have a seconder for the amendment to move to $500? Hearing none, we'll move forward without a seconder. We won't move forward, sorry, without a seconder. So the original motion. Sorry.
I mean, the fact that it's not open to everybody, I guess I'm more for funding activities like this, but the building, I guess, isn't big enough, as you're saying, to house many people. So I'm just leery of cutting it down, and I'm leery of giving them this amount of money for just an event for someone coming in. But our sponsorship money is for hosting people, and we don't, where some of this money could get used, it's not open to the public, correct?
I can't imagine that it could be. I mean, the public is going to come to see the Blue Nose in monumental numbers. Yeah. I think there is a large group of people who are members of the boat club, and they are hosting and doing the work that it takes to, this is not a small endeavor to host the Blue Nose. So I think that it is meant to have a group of people represent Richmond County, which is this group that's hosting them. And so it's the two groups together sharing a meal.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000 is a lot when the addition of that is not 2,000, the things they put there. But, I mean, I'm still okay either way, whatever most want to do.
I'll put it to you directly,
Yeah.
Councillor Marchand. Do you want to second the motion that Councillor Brent Sampson made?
For
Or
the amendment to 500.
the amendment to 500?
Yes.
Okay, so we have an amendment to, from $1,000 to 500, okay? Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment to move to $500 instead of 1,000, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We have a nay. So we have now a motion on the floor which is $500 instead of $1,000. All those, so any other discussion on that? $500 sponsorship. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Okay, motion carries, and so that is the sponsorship. So if you want to just keep track as we go here. Okay. So, la Société du Festival Acadien de Pedregat is a grant request for Tier 1 community funds. Councillor Sean Sampson and I have not discussed it, but typically we are quite open to sharing events on Almadam. I think the Acadian Festival is an important contribution, so I would be open to matching funds with District 1. And for folks who are following along, that's page 67 to 72. But I don't think it would hurt for us to have a couple of dollars from the regional fund. So.
Yeah, thank you, Warden, and I'm in agreement with you when it comes to Almadam and all these festivals. The Yacht Club, I think we're going to discuss after, so I'd be willing to put a motion to take $250 from District 1, $250 from District 2, and $500 from our regional fund.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor for $250 from each of District 1 and 2, and $500 from regional funds. Any seconder on that? Seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Kitchen rackets, and so this one might be easy for us because I can tell you what, the next two might be easy for us because I will read Councillor or Deputy Warden's comments. I would be happy to support both of these in full from my district funds. So.
It seemed both of them were the same information.
No, it's two sets of information. One is it's the same information from their who they are and their application, but the requests are, and it always comes in as two separate ones. One is for the activities for October, the October Celtic Colors, and the other is for the summer events through the summer, July and August weekends. So very similar, but two separate sets, and they've always done it like that. It's always coming in two separate. Anyway.
Okay, so hold a second.
6C, pages 73 to 78 on your package.
So,
I know, I don't, anyway,
so
whatever.
if you look at it, now unless the same one was printed, and even when I looked at it on the computer, they're giving the same amount of information. The same information.
So
They have the July 9th to August 27th in one side, and then they have the October event. And I look at some of the numbers, and they have in the revenue, in-kind from the Marina, 400, and in-kind from the Hawk, 1150. I'm wondering, is that cash coming from them or in kind? Like the numbers are adding up perfectly. Like, but it's the identical information for both. So I thought when I looked at it on the computer, maybe it just got added.
Tiny print under purpose of funding request use. That's different, right? So the information about their organizations.
Yeah, but if you look, it's two separate budgets on the same page. The left side has the summer jams, and the right side is the
Celtic colors.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why, the information is identical.
Yeah, there's.
because basically you look at the left side for one of the applications, the right side for the other. But I think in theory it could have been one application for two events.
Women's district fund, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thought of that. No, yeah. Well, but the write-up is not the same. Okay, so Councillor Sampson, I believe you've been in touch with Deputy Warden about making the motion, and her request is for $500 for each at $400. I think it needs to be two separate motions, though.
Yeah, I think it's two separate applications.
Yeah.
So I will make So I will make a motion to fund the first application with the $500 coming from District 4.
Okay, so that one is for the Celtic Colors International Festival grant request, $500 coming from District 4 funds. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brian Marchand. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. And the next one, Councillor Sampson?
So yes, Warden, I will make a motion to fund the second kitchen racket organization funding request for the full amount of $500 to be allocated from the District 4 fund.
Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, those opposed? That motion carries. So I do want to speak a little bit about the Lakeside Community Association grant request, and I'm going to start with a little bit of explanation from Councillor Deputy Warden, because we actually probably should begin with a motion to rescind. So these are her thoughts on the Lakeside request. I'm hopeful we can fund the Lakeside request the way we did the community club, which was the club that was sponsoring the Nicholas Denny money from last meeting. She said the association is funding over 50% of the costs themselves, so we wouldn't need to make a contingent upon receipt of external funding. This makes it, this is a make or break project for the fall. But here's the significant. Related to the club from the Nicholas Denny application that we had last month, that project cannot proceed because their provincial funding request was denied. So our contribution could be canceled since it was contingent. She's been in touch with them. They're meeting today to have a revised scope of work and new information. But we probably should consider that $7,500 returned to the pot. And it may be the simplest way to deal with that in terms of our record keeping for where our money has gone would be a motion to rescind, so that that money, we can consider it back in the kitty before we consider the Lakeside. Okay, we'll move that we rescind, sorry.
Because I declared a conflict.
Yes.
I still should in this case, because I wasn't involved in that discussion.
Sure. Okay. Yep, so Councillor Brent Sampson is going to declare a conflict on this issue, which is related to an application request that actually came in prior to the budget year, but it got deferred. And so we have a motion from Councillor Brian Marchand to rescind the grant request from the community club on behalf of the Nicholas Denny Museum in the amount of $7,500. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, come on back in. Okay, so now, in terms of the district funds, Deputy Warden is happy to consider a $500 contribution, and she is hopeful that the grant request regional funds can be used for the rest. So if somebody wants to make a motion and we could discuss that.
So I'll make the motion that we fund the Lakeside Community Hall request fully with $500 coming from District 4 and $7,000 coming from our regional fund.
So we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any other conversation on that? Hearing none. Oh, sorry. Councillor Marchand, did you?
Is this the one that had the mold? Is there one of the estimates that was like from quite some time ago?
Yeah.
Well, the amounts, but there was one that's August of 25, the low one. Will that be maintained? It's almost 10 months. And then the new one is the one.
Sorry.
Quite a bit more. So I'm just wondering what is, normally we want newer estimates.
It looks to me, based on the notes from the Deputy Warden, that whether they get the smaller amount that is an older quote or a current amount that is older, they know that they can only get 7,500, and they would be getting in excess of 50% from their own dollars, and it's money that they are taking from their reserves. So it's not, it's up to them to fight to get the best price they can get, but they're mindful of the two quotes.
Okay, but the smaller quote, I was just wondering what the extra was. The smaller quote was lower than half, like, was not half, was it? With the tax?
So you're referring to pages...
Yeah, there's a large difference between them. But I don't know.
Half, I think.
I don't know what we can do about that.
Yeah, there's a large difference.
Yeah, and I mean, they are going to do what they can do with the dollars that they have. The budget that they submitted is hoping to use the smaller amount, right?
Yes.
Regardless, at best, they're $13,700 plus applicable tax into this work. That's the best they can do with these two quotes. If they won't honor that and it costs more, or they want to get the additional services, because it wasn't clear to me in the first quote whether or not that includes disposal fees and so on. But regardless, are there any other questions that you have, Councilor Mershon? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to fund fully for 500 from District 4 and 7,000 from the regional fund. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so the next one is the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 150 sponsorship request for $1,500. This is in fact on pages 100 to 105. This is for everybody in the community. So they are celebrating both their 100th anniversary and the 70th anniversary of their anniversary of that particular legion. And it also happens to fall on the day of their fish fry. So they're looking to subsidize the deficit to the Legion by offering a significantly discount. I think it's one of those back in the day, this is what it would have cost you kind of things. So the amount is $1,500 that they're requesting.
From sponsorship.
Out of sponsorship, correct.
So I would like to put a motion forward that we fully support this $1,500 request from the sponsorship grant fund.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Mershon. For what it's worth, comments from Councillor Deputy Warden Radecki. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So that's $1,500 out of the sponsorship. Next item is the Lucedale Lions Club grant request for Tier 1 community grant funds for $1,000. It is interesting. This is a Tier 1 grant request. It's not sponsorship, so that's the request that came in, so we'll throw it over. So happy to have Councillor Mershon start us off.
Yeah, I guess we'll have some discussion, but I'll make a motion to take 500 from general and 500 from district funds for District 3 for the event.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Sean Sands. Any discussion on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, preface this by saying I think it's a great organization. They do a lot of good work in the community. My only concern is we supported this project significantly not that long ago to the tune of $20,000. They've received a ton of money through the province, so I kind of feel like they're going to the well again, and I'm not sure. I'm perfectly fine with anything coming out of the District 3 funds because I don't feel like that's my not appropriate for me to decide where Councillor Marchand would want to spend that. I just wouldn't be comfortable with money coming out of the general funds, since we supported this to the tune of 20,000 not that long ago.
I guess my comment to that is we've supported the boat club as well with the same 20,000, which is federal money. We've given them money to have an event less open to the public than what the Lions Club is going to put on for the boat club. So boat clubs, or the boat club's event is just going to be a specific group of people, whereas the Lions Club project is going to be singers from all Richmond County and events for the whole day, free food for the public, and it's $1,000. So, one is just half for my money, and the Ilmadan Boat Club is half the sponsorship, I guess. So, which is a little still grant money, but still a little different. So maybe they should have applied under sponsorship and it would have been different, but I have no issue myself supporting it. And in light of other organizations, if we look at it, I understand we do want to spread the money around, but we can't use the fact that they've gotten $20,000 from the CCBF fund when we just supported the boat club, who also got $20,000 and tons of provincial and federal money.
But we did actually only give them $500 based on that. And actually, when they held an event up in Ayrshire here, just up the hill, we gave $513 to them as well, the playground, and we had given them $10,000. So it may be sort of a more palatable to council for $750 to come from the councillors' funds, but it would be up to folks and $250 from the municipality. But that there's a motion on the floor at this point, so happy to hear what folks. And I believe
So are you suggesting then, because we cut the boat club's money down, we should cut this down as well, you're saying? Still give some from the general?
Yeah.
Or are you saying nothing from the general? Because you said 750 from the...
I guess, right, so we did just bring the boat clubs down, right, to $500 of money from the municipality.
No district funds, though.
Sorry?
No district funds, sponsorship.
Yes, yep. So we brought that down, right? So I'm suggesting that, and I think Councillor Deputy Warden and I are thinking, more perhaps along the 750 from district funds to 250 from the, 750 from your district funds and 250 is the, but that's a motion, that's not the motion on the floor.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, and it's like we did with the other one, there's nothing tying us to the amount asked. Right. You know what I mean? It's up to the, the table to make that decision. Whether or not it's the full amount that was asked in one way or another, or another amount, such as we did for the first request.
I guess Clayton was ahead of me there. I will make an amendment, but I guess I'm appalled at the fact that we gave $500 to an organization that got as much money and is having an event specific to their group, and here's an organization that's not just for a specific group of people in the whole county. They provide services for everybody, and they were asking for the same amount, and we're going to cut it down. But I'll make an amendment to go 750. I'm making those comments, but I'll make an amendment to go 750 of district funds and 250 of general, if somebody wants to second that.
Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. So any discussion on that? I will say that when, again, that was a sponsorship request, and we're celebrating and being recognized as a sponsor of that event. I think it's more aligned to say that up the hill we had an event for all of Richmond County for the playground, it only came out of district funds, and we didn't give any money to them from the regional funds. So I think that, and you know, if we look at the kitchen rackets, that came out entirely of, so, yeah. Yep, good. Yep, I think it's just apples and oranges, yep. Okay, so we have a motion on an amendment, so that is $750 and $250 from the regional fund. So $750 from District 3, $250 from the regional fund. So that is a, did we get a, yes, and we had a seconder. So all those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Yes, Sean did, yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. So that was, okay. So now we have a motion on the floor for $750 from District 3 and $250 from regional funds. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so the next one is the New Horizons Seniors Club grant request. So for folks who follow along, it's page 115 to 157. And I have a couple of concerns with this application. So on page, when I did the math, if you go to page, so it starts from 115. So you'll notice that the budget talks about materials, 7,320. So the total ask is 8,252, asking for all the materials to be covered by us and that they would cover in-kind contributions of $932. But a couple things. So first, I don't think we have ever covered 100% of any application, and we have only ever covered 50%. So I would like to kind of make it clear to organizations that that's how we have done business. But unless somebody can correct me, they went to great lengths to say that, for example, you could buy 12 chairs and you could buy them at these 3 places. But I would expect them to get the lowest bidder. So when I added up the lowest of each of the things, that only came to $6,391. Does that sound right? Yes. Yeah, okay. So the materials, if they pick the lowest of each of the categories, so something from Amazon over here, Wayfair over there, would only ever be $6,391. And while I appreciate that they're going to do their own work, you know, we would expect them to cover half of the costs of anything that's what we've done consistently. And so to my mind, the most I would consider would be $3,195. That would be 50% of the costs. So I'm prepared to give, you know, good number of dollars from District 1 District 2, but not. I know Mom. Yay! But I absolutely would like to see us, just because the practice has been no more than half, to cap that at $3,000. 3,195, whatever.
I'd make a motion to support it to the amount of 3,000 even. I think that would be a reasonable amount. However, I don't know what you would like to contribute from district funds. And if not, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to put the pressure on anybody. So,
I see 1,500 there, so it must be 15 from each.
maybe I'll withdraw those comments in the sense that if somebody else that has district funds they want to contribute to it can probably make that motion.
So again, Warren, going with your approach of supporting, you know, community halls in our districts and on Almaden, right? So you said the total was $31.95. That $31.95 would be half of. So I would be willing to go $595 out of District 2, $600 out of District 1, which would make the $1195, and $2,000 out of our regional fund.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is $5,095 to District 2.
No,
$595 from District 2, $600 from District 1, and then the balance is $2,000 from the regional funds, which takes them to 50% of the amount that we calculated. So we have a motion and a seconder on the floor. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. The River Bourgeois Mariners Society. This is a District 4 organization. So just some notes from the deputy warden. Last year we funded $750 of their $1,000 ask, and I would be supportive of doing the same thing this year with $500 from District 4 and $250 from the regional fund. She offers that this event attracts boating community from all around the county and further afield, aligns with our tourism pillar in our strategic plan, also directly supports their ability to maintain the marine infrastructure on an ongoing basis, and their budget, so they're looking at 20% of that $750. That's her suggestion. Councillor Sampson, on her behalf, $500 from District 4, $250 from Regional Fund to get us started.
So yeah, I will make that motion for 500 from District 4, 250 from the regional.
Yep, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Yep. Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. The Lennox Passage, so the last one, Lennox Passage Yacht Club grant request for Tier 1 community grants. Council Deputy Warden's comments are that I don't think we've funded this in the past, but they're asking for 13% of overall costs, and the festival attracts a lot of people. So certainly happy to support that.
So I've changed my approach, Warden, and no, I'm joking. I'm joking. So I would like to see us do the same thing we've done for the Acadian Festival and for the New Horizon. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we take 300 each out of District 1 and District 2 and 400 out of the Regional Fund to fully support this funding request.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And I have completely lost track of the money, and I look forward to Kathleen updating all of that because I've lost it all. Okay, so moving on. Thank you, folks. That's a lot of money to dish out to a lot of organizations who are doing some important work on our behalf. So Warden's report is on page 180. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. Otherwise, I have 3 issues I thought I would like to bring to the table. One is the first, and I've written just a paragraph about it. You folks can find it on page 181. Councillor Brent Sampson and I had a conversation about other jurisdictions that have a budget committee. And one of the things that strikes me is that when I did the newsletter, I started a newsletter, it's included in there, and I did a little write-up on what is the Committee of the Whole, and as I was researching how to write that up to explain what it does, it went to the MGA. Committee of the Whole is meant to be this, which is us deliberating and discussing. When we have council meetings, that's where we make decisions. It isn't typically a place where we would deliberate these things. Not to say we haven't on occasion, so grant requests, that kind of thing. But it seems like deliberations about budget don't really fit well in a council structure. And one of the things that has concerned me over the last 2 years I couldn't put my finger on is we have meetings and we call them council meetings, but sometimes we do a first pass on our contributions. And I would think that people would be reasonable to say, oh yes, they said they were giving $10,000 to such and such an organization. But we don't pass the budget on those occasions. It's not until sometimes months later. But I feel like because it happens at a council meeting, it gives it more weight, those deliberations, more weight than it should. So what I'm wondering is if there's an appetite for council to do what we do for audit and bylaw and policy, which is to have a committee that would allow us to deliberate in a forum which is more conducive to deliberation, which is what committees do. So we could have a member of the public, we could have try it for a year and see what happens, but I do feel like we convey to people sometimes at our council deliberations, budget deliberations at council meetings, like that's a final decision, and it's not. And I think that that kind of deliberating belongs more in a committee structure. So that's just thoughts from me, as I can't make motions, but I'm happy to entertain folks' thoughts.
So are you proposing something like the audit committee? We're going to be all 5 councillors plus public. Yep. I 100% for that. Yeah, and I mean, I would say more than one would be fine.
Sure, and
from public.
we could start with one and we can always expand it. But the only reason I would say start with one is because we have one on our audit committee and one on our bylaw and policy committee. So to align with that, we could start with one and then expand it at some point.
You wouldn't want to go higher than 5?
No.
Well, up to you.
Yeah. But we absolutely could. So I think what we would, so does that sound positive to the group? Well, I think what we would need then would be a motion to create terms of reference for a potential committee to the bylaw and policy committee. I think that's where we would start, right, with terms of reference.
So moved.
Okay, moved.
Okay. The motion you want. The motion you want is to move this to bylaw and policy?
I think so.
To set up, yes.
To set up terms of reference.
So-
That would be how we would create a committee, I think, is we'd have to, we would want to define it before.
So I'll move that we recommend to council, I guess, that we have some discussions about the terms of reference for a budget committee at bylaw and policy.
Seconded by Councillor Vincent. Any other discussion on that? Councillor, or Deputy Warden Malmquet is very supportive of that. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. So I am also in second item, or 7C, looking for some conversation or direction. It can be informal. Last year, we did check presentations to people who received funding contributions from the budget. So I'm not talking about what we just did tonight, funding contributions to the budget. And we included in there a little bit of a letter saying, we'd like some information before we consider requests next year. And I'm wondering if you could give us your thoughts on if you would like to see a similar procedure this year, and if you would like, what you would like that to kind of, what we should be asking of folks. So we're going to send those letters out saying, please come to the municipal office, get your picture taken as a contribution. When we give the check, we have an opportunity to communicate about what we would like to see for next year. So I'm just looking for some thoughts on what that might look like. Okay.
I guess some of the issues I have, some of the volunteer groups maybe, for them, I mean, they volunteered their time to add an extra expense of them coming here.
We've
You know.
gone there. We've gone to them.
Oh, we've gone to them.
Like I went to the adult day program, for example. I would go to them. We've asked them if they mind coming here. We went to Lordways and did a bunch of the ones for Lordways. It's not meant to be an expense to people to come here. We have gone to them.
An expense for the county.
I don't think I can, but
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to claim your mileage if you go. But, yeah, if you do that, then I guess it's a little different, so the volunteers aren't taxed with the amount. So I'm okay either way, as Councillor Brent has said, whatever you deem, okay.
okay, good. I'll take that into consideration. We're looking for, in item 7D, we now have moved trails and waterfront out of CCBF, which had its own application kind of process, and we've moved it in, we've taken it out of operational funds. And so it is now on our booklet, but we don't have a policy for how we're going to implement that money. So 25,000 in trails, typically what has happened in the past is they've asked the 5 trail groups, to ATV groups, listen, here's the money, and they would give out, in the past they gave out $5,000 when asked, maximum of 5, and then they could come back, but now we only have, so we're looking for some direction about, like, do you want us to create another form just like we have in our other grant policy requests?
Stop that, but now we only have, are you going to say we only have 4 groups, or?
No, we have 5, we only have 25,000 instead of 50.
Yeah, okay.
And that's for boat trails.
But you can still give them 5,000 each.
No, I think we could, but in the past, it was, you could ask for up to a maximum of 5 was automatic, and then you could ask for more, yeah. But now there wouldn't be any more, right? So it was 50 and 50. Yeah. So, but do you want to see that in a form, much like we have for the others, that council approves? Because it is operational and it is a good chunk of money. You're talking about. So, for example, our grant, Tier 1, something similar to Tier 1. Yeah.
Do we want to just Or would we want to just sort of task staff with that in the sense that, say, well, they just, they have to provide the receipts and so on and so forth, and as long as that.
But take the waterfront development fund, for example, right? Like,
Yeah, I think there's maybe two different conversations
Okay.
here.
so since we know there's 5 trail groups, do we want to leave that to the discretion of staff to offer $5,000 per? And if it's not used, then other groups could apply a second time? Because the reason that one is particularly important is because those people tend to do work over the summer. So we're hoping to kind of have something that gives folks an opportunity to get into the woods, do the chainsaw work and so on. But, okay, so I'm happy to take that direction on the trails. On the waterfront development, would we want to create a refer to bylaw and policy so that we could create the form that we would use in terms of the requirements, or would they, like, how do you want it? That's that could be potentially be $10,000 applications.
Didn't we have the tier 3 application for waterfront development?
We did have something separate.
Yeah, we did, but it went to CCBF funds. Yeah, right.
That same application could be used. Just the
Okay.
funds are coming.
Yep. Okay.
They are coming from us anyway.
Okay, so, and I think we could just sort of default that without it having to go to bylaw and policy and whatever. Okay, does that sound agreeable? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll convert the former tier 3 or whatever it was into something that aligns with that, just so people can start to get those applications in. Go ahead.
So the trail funding, are you talking about 5 ATV groups? Or, okay.
So what had happened was it was 5 ATV
Yeah.
groups. They were
But it-
originally told, listen, there's this 50,000.
Yeah,
If you have $5,000 requests, then go ahead and get them in, and you'll automatically get that up to a maximum of 5,000, and then they could reapply. And I suppose anybody else could, but it would be difficult to apply for trail money if you weren't a designated group.
well, we're just thinking of the opening last weekend with the JCDC and, the Irish Cove Trail. And that's not an ATV trail, but there is a trail group there that is going to continue doing work. And we have supported that, and they were very thankful for it. But I suspect as they add to this in the future, that may be a group that could use funding.
So do you want to create another stream that folks would, sorry.
I would hope they could just fall under, even though it's not an ATV group, it's still a trail group, right? So I would hope they could almost fall under the same umbrella.
So what would the mechanism be for them or the 5 trail groups to ask for this money?
Well, I guess we could maybe ask staff for recommendations on that.
Okay. So,
I just wouldn't want to see them left out
sure,
in a sense,
yeah, sure. Okay.
That being said, they could apply through regular grant
For
funding
example,
too.
like a walk, is it a walking trail?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's hiking trails, and so they have 3 different trails set up through there. And so, I mean, it's a trail group, and it's, I feel like it fits there. Now, they could apply under normal funding as well, and maybe that's where we leave it. I just,
Can I ask then that we table this topic for the council meeting coming up at the end of June, with staff to bring something to us then, which we may even pass. And I get that that's bypassing the bylaw and policy group, but I am mindful of the fact that this is a pot of money that folks would like to use this summer.
yeah,
Right?
no, that's fine.
So is it okay if we bring it kind of as a working topic at our,
Yeah, and I don't foresee them looking for anything
No, no,
more
that-
right
yeah.
now. I
But
haven't
it
been
could be
informed of
another
anything. But so, as far as this summer, if we want to just leave as is, I just wanted to sort of
Okay.
flag that for the
yeah,
future.
okay.
Yeah.
So do we want to leave it as is with that for this year
I
and
think
then
so.
refer to bylaw and policy?
And honestly, if they required something, they could apply through a normal grant.
Okay.
So yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because they applied and got money. The money they got already, was that through regular grant or was that CCBF beforehand?
I think that would be a recreation question. I was thinking of trail money, and
How long?
stated that, whether or not I was accurate. I thought we did do something through trail money, but it's a couple of years ago now, because I think they got an extension on it based on just how the work was proceeding and so on.
Well, there are 5 trail groups that could get a maximum of 5,000 out of 50,000. So there was money left over. We reduced it from 50 to 25. Okay, so what I'm going to tell staff is that for this season, we will allow them to kind of do what they've been doing. And when we review the bylaw and policy committee, when we review the grant policy, we will be mindful to include this in the next iteration of that, if that gets us where we need to go. Okay, so moving on to the CAO's report. He is available online virtually, so that runs from pages 182 to 188. So if anybody has any questions for the CAO, happy to entertain those. There was something And in the time that the Emergency Management Services report, so the dry hydrant policy revision was completed, budget submissions have been done, and the dry hydrant quotes are ongoing, but not for the money that they have. Okay, so any other? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to community acknowledgements. So this month's Volunteer of the Month for May is Marvin McLean from District 4. Chief Marvin McLean is a 20-year veteran of the St. Peter's District Volunteer Fire Department, whose commitment extends far beyond responding to emergency calls. His exceptional dedication to the community, combined with his leadership, experience, and steady presence, has made a lasting impact, both with the department and throughout the community he broadly serves. Beyond his role in fire services, Marvin generously gives his time to several local initiatives. He has devoted countless hours as a committee member at the St. Peter's Gym, helping to ensure it remains a welcoming and valuable space for people of all ages. He is also an active member of the working committee for the local ATV club, contributing to the development and maintenance of recreational opportunities in the area. Marvin is widely known for his dedication, care, and compassion. Always willing to lend a hand, he supports fellow firefighters, assists community members, and steps up whenever help is needed. His positive attitude and strong sense of community make him a natural role model and a person others deeply respect and look up to. Please join us in recognizing and thanking Marvin for his outstanding dedication and service to Richmond County. Before moving on, I would like to add a few words that came from Deputy Warden Mumberket, which I absolutely echo. I can't think of a more deserving person to be recognized as Volunteer of the Month. Marvin, like so many of our volunteer firefighters, steps up to care for and rescue us when we are at our most vulnerable. And he does so with compassion and professionalism. What many people don't realize is the amount of work that goes into the operation of fire department, the administration, the training, maintenance of gear, planning for future purchases, fundraising, community engagement, and the list goes on. As Chief, Marvin has to have his finger on the pulse of it all and sets the tone for the organization on how it moves forward. It's no small task, and I know everyone is grateful for his commitment. So thank you to Marvin from Deputy Warden Mumberket and all of us here in Richmond County Council. Is there anybody who would like to offer up any shout-outs? Go ahead, Councillor Brent.
I know this is rare coming from me, I think a couple months in a row. Yeah, I'll echo those comments on Marvin. He's also a lot of great things. One thing that wasn't mentioned, he's also been the captain of the roadside attractions running team, which originated from Richmond County, even though there's as many people or more from HRM now that regularly participate in the Cabot Trail Relay, although we didn't make it this year, but that's another story. On a side note, the Johnstown Community Development Corporation, about 2020, formed a subcommittee to create some trails in the former limestone quarry in Irish Cove. They had their grand opening on Friday, and myself and the Director of Community Development and Recreation, Shannon Murray, were there, as well as MLA Boudreau. Great event. It was very well attended. I think people were excited, so they have their signage up now. There's three trails at the moment that people can access from either the whole thing, I guess, technically is located in Richmond County, but one entrance is from the CBRM side, and then you can really access it from the Richmond County side as well. But the parking is more on the CBRM side, where it's probably easier to find a spot to park. But a lot of great work over the last few years has been done there, and they were really excited to have their grand opening on Friday, and it was great to have great weather as well, because you can never be sure on those things. But just wanted to shout out to that organization, because it took a lot of work to get from day one to where they are now. So.
I would like to echo my congratulations to the folks in in Johnstown, and I apologize for not being able to get to that event because I was double booked, and so our Community Development Officer Danielle Martel and I were up at several Access Awareness Week events. So shout out to the folks from that committee who made those events happen. There was a couple of really great presentations, one on intercultural appreciation and another one on the disability tax credit. And shout out to folks who are helping to help those folks who may benefit from that navigate that process. And we also had some recognition for our community champions. So very grateful to the folks who made that happen. It hasn't happened yet, but we aren't going to have a meeting in July. So I do want to do an early in advance shout out to the folks who are making the Arishat Street Festival happen on June 20th. For folks who are in the area or maybe not even in the area, there's quite a lot planned on the street between, I believe, the Hertzval-Madame and up towards this end of the street. So lots of planning going on there. And I have a little bit more of a personal one to shout out. We're always glad to see new businesses come to Richmond County. And there are lots of great hairdressing salons on Almadam. I think there's enough room for another business. And another one did, in fact, open up. It's called Strawberry Scissors. And they posted on Facebook that they are open for business. And folks asked, where is it? And absolutely every single answer to that question is either Beaton's store or Willard Fougere's store. So it's always good to see old buildings that look like they're about to kind of fall down come back to life. This one is particularly important for those of us on the north side, because if you haven't driven through Discouse lately or through Pullman, you really should, because they have put red siding on that building, fire engine red siding. And for those of us who remember it as Beaton's store or Willard Fougere's store before that, where I used to go when I was a little girl and buy chocolate bars for 5 cents. But to see it as a fire engine red building, for those, it is like I live 3 houses past or before, or I live just past the red store in Discouse. So shout out to those folks who are really trying to open up new businesses and bring buildings to life, but to do that in a way that celebrates what was once is really, really, really something to see. The building across the street used to be the Pullman School, and so there's some folks who have big plans there. So it's been really nice to see that store, and you're not going to miss it. It is something. So shout out to those folks. So moving on to correspondence. We have no correspondence that require our action tonight, but council had me on a letter writing campaign, obviously, so several for your information items in there. Mi'kmaq versions of public awareness posters, and so that one is on page 190. There is the letter to the, 2 letters to the Alan J. McCacken Airport, one for asking that the correspondence that we got from Chief Kavanagh from Port Hastings be included in on an agenda, and then further to that, the one that talks about emergency services representation. So those are on pages 195. The letter to the town regarding operations of the Sarek Pool, so that is on page 196, and the one to the letter of support to the regarding the town of Port Hawkesbury's request to look at defense opportunities. There is a letter from the airport, also about annual contribution issues. The New Dawn trustee program, so anyway, does anybody have any questions up to that point? A, B, C, D, E, whatever, I, V, I? So I do want to speak to the one from New Dawn Enterprises. So I was asked to include this in correspondence and maybe to give it a little bit of a shout out. So the trustee program is a partnership with the province, and it's meant to support folks who receive money from government, and it allows folks who are challenged by navigating and handling that much money. It allows folks to totally volunteer, be able to work with somebody free of charge who can track your payments, reconcile your accounts, connect you to community supports. So they would, for example, pay your rent and utilities up to the amount you contribute, provide budgeting support, offer non-judgmental harm reduction services. They don't control your bank account. They don't use your money for personal gain. They don't they don't tell you what to do. But any adults who want supportive help in paying rent or utilities, those folks can actually work with a new person who's been hired. It is through New Dawn because that's the service provider, but the person is strictly Richmond and Port Hawkesbury, and her name is Marguerite Conradi, I guess. She is a trustee, and her phone number is there. 539-9560. So it's funded by Opportunities Social Developments, but the services are no cost. So if anybody is struggling to, stay ahead of bills and that kind of thing, this is a free service that you can access if you're interested. There is a good deal of information from the Raising the Village's spring annual spring health fair update. And the last one, the last bit of correspondence are the two newsletters that I have produced for May and June, really meant to, each one will talk about a new committee or a committee, just talk to residents about what they do, and a little bit of information about what might be going on that month, but really just motions that have passed to try and kind of make sure that what we do is as transparent with folks. Not sure how this will get, it's on our website at this point, but we'll see if there's another way to get that out there. So is there any questions about any of that? Lots of correspondence. Go ahead.
I figured putting both those newsletters, you were just trying to fill in a small package, meeting package, you're, yeah.
But in the future, I'll include it with the warden's report.
Took me a minute, the first one seemed familiar, and then I said, wait, this is May.
I changed the color.
Oh, okay.
So I could keep track of them. So you have a review of checks issued. Are there review of action items on pages 53 to 61? I don't know if anybody has any questions about those. There were no items added to the agenda, so we'll open it up for a 15-minute question period. No questions from the gallery, I assume. And so we'll, for folks watching at home, you can call 902-226-9885. There's a slight delay, so we listen while to see if there are any folks who want to phone in. And this is not restricted to items on the agenda. It's always an awkward amount. Oh, there's our CAO. CAO is...
I'd take a chance and see if the camera would hold for a little bit.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi's not that good down here.
Yeah. So our CAO is at the AMANS, Association of Municipal Administrators of Nova Scotia conference. I think lots of folks headed there this evening, so good that you got there ahead of the... Well, actually, the weather was good, I'm sure, driving, yeah. Okay, so I think we've waited long. Good. I think we've waited long enough, shall we? Yes. Okay, so that concludes our the items on our agenda, and so seeing no other items, no further business, this meeting, Committee of the Whole meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thanks.